Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Celebrity Natal Charts. And today we're going to be looking at the natal chart of George R. Martin. He was born in Bayonne, New Jersey, United States, September 20th, 1948, at
Is that volume?
9:25 p.m. Birth time accuracy excellent. George Raymond Richard Martin, born September 20th, 1948, often referred to as GRRM, is an American novelist and short story writer in the fantasy, horror, and science fiction genres, as well as a screenwriter and television producer. He is best known for a Song of Ice and Fire, his international best-selling series of epic fantasy novels that HBO adapted into its dramatic series Game of Thrones. Martin serves as the series co-executive producer, while also scripting one of each season's 10 episodes. Okay. Martin was selected by Time magazine as one of the 2011 Time 100 A list of the most influential people in the world. That's super cool. So Mr. Martin, he is a Sun Virgo, as this is the Sun Virgo series, and he has an ascendant in Taurus, so he's a rising Taurus. And if you've been following this series, you'll know that I think that all Tauruses are like farm folk and cows. So there's that. And thank you for listening. So he's a rising Taurus. This means that like he looks like a Taurus, that he gets his self-esteem from Taurian energy. So if he did grow up on a farm or knows anything about rural life, like that makes him feel good about himself. There could be something very country and rural about his father's side of the family. He kind of dresses like a train engineer from like the past. And his self-esteem is wrapped around Taurian things like how much he's eating, how much money he's made. He seems to be a very successful writer and novelist in comparison to other writers and novelists, as they might feel a lot like, you know, circus, sideshow, freak attractions that have lost their appeal. And then his second house obviously is in Gemini, meaning that his biggest priority should be connecting with people and communications, which, taking his book into television seems like something that he was doing. But it's also connecting with like younger generations and people who maybe are less Taurian. If everybody has some type of like negative connotation or stereotype about people that aren't in shape, it's probably really important for him to appeal to people that are, as shallow as that sounds, but that's life. Life is shallow. I believe he also has Chiron. Hold on. No. Just kidding. Okay, so he has Uranus and Cancer. So in his third house, he has Cancer, which I guess, like in my mind, I don't believe anything that I read. So in my mind, I'm like, sure, he wrote these books and he didn't have like a whole team of people helping him write them. Sure, I'm sure. But if that is the case, if he is an honest person, this would say that these stories, like Game of Thrones, might have been some type of adaptation from like bedtime stories from his mother, or like Lord of the Rings, or just something that has like a caregiver attachment to it. And I've never listened to him speak before, but maybe he's a very loving, caring person and uses a lot of kind words. The third house also talks about like your childhood environment, like where you grew up. Maybe grew up with his mother. Very possible could have had a single father, but so says his natal chart to me. It says that he spent a lot of time around his mom and mother's side of the family and was very nurtured and was around a lot of caregivers. But when you go into the fourth house, that does talk about like the home and what his home life was like. And sort of like the Lord of the Rings guy, J.R. Tolkien, I believe. It's like I see that there could have been like a lot of competition within his home around books and writing. With Tolkien, I was like, it's like something like his aunt has like Lord of the Necklaces and Lord of the Bracelets, and he's writing Lord of the Rings. So maybe there was like some type of like writing competitions around him and his family, like who's gonna write this great story. What other planets? Uranus. Uranus. So Uranus and Cancer in the third house. This talks about uh, exceeding boundaries or the boundaries that are around your life. So maybe his mom was a jerk and was like, "You're wasting your time writing books," and he's like, "I'm going to use the future on it, and it's going to be good." With like Uranus there, it's going to be an expansive book, which is I'm sure it's like a multi like series book, and it's on HBO, and it was like very famous. There was a Starbucks cup, you all loved it, and dragons in winter. That's what I know about Game of Thrones. Is it Game of Thrones? Yeah, Game of Thrones, right? Um, Fourth house of Leo. He has Venus in Leo, which means that he is has really good hair and is very attractive, or is very attracted to Leos. He has Pluto in Leo, which kind of says the opposite of everything that I just said. Um, Pluto in Leo, to me, it kind of says a little bit like he doesn't care about being famous so much, but I think it is like um, integral to his survival as an artist. So maybe he was a little bit more authentic in his writing and not really writing for the appeal of other people. Um, and even to the sense of me saying that like there was probably some type of think tank or something around uh, Game of Thrones. Perhaps there wasn't. Perhaps he's like a great guy and he wrote it all himself, and he's like super honest or something that like unlike nobody else is. Uh, so that's the fourth house. The fifth house, he might have third house in the fourth house. So surrounded by a lot of nurturing caregivers, possibly very popular and famous. Maybe has famous family members or family friends or something like that. His fifth house that I always see is like the house of obstacles, which I think in one video I said I don't think I've ever seen anybody with their sun in the fifth house, but I have my sun in my fifth house. But what he has, his sun in the fifth house and also Saturn. So it's like there's things about the way he looks um, that has created certain limitations for him. His looks and his ego and his appetites have created a lot of obstacles. And how he's supposed to overcome those obstacles presented to him in his fifth house, which, some goofy emerald tablet, what do you call it? Akashic record astrologer will tell you like, oh, Virgos are super clean and neat, so he can't get out of his house because he's like scrubbing his floors. But I mean, from the looks of his scruffy little beard, I don't think that's the case. I think it's more like being annoying and persistent. Um, Maybe like annoyingly persistently writing some crazy book. And how he gets over that is by Libra, which is the energy of his sixth house. That's how he heals himself from his wounded ego and obstacles and distractions is through partnership. So partnering with people, I guess, like a think tank to write his book that I'm accusing him of, and or like a romantic partner to help keep his mind off of Game of Thrones references that I don't know. White Walkers, maybe. Maybe the White Walkers keep him up all night. Um, he also has Neptune and Mercury, I want to say. Yeah, Mercury and Libra. So Neptune, as you know, I say it's like the tuning fork or TV antenna that gets people onto television. So him healing his ego from his fifth house into his sixth house with partnership in Libra is also making partnerships with television. So he's writing a book, people, their feelings about books, and then how he overcomes that is by putting his book on TV, and then people can probably go back and then watch his book. And Libra, library, it's like a very similar word. So if it's not an actual person, like an actual Libra that got him on television, maybe he was spending time at the library, maybe it was a cohort of librarian fans, or one person named Tammy that let him into the HBO studio. Um, Mercury and Libra. I don't know about the musical scores in Game of Thrones, but if he was singing them, I think they might be good because Libras are really good singers. He sang real good with Mercury and Libra, or speaks really well, or writes and communicates very beautifully. I just like to imagine that he's somewhere singing show tunes. Um, right, he probably is, right? He's probably singing cabaret right now. In his seventh house, he has Scorpio, so this is relationship house. So if you ask David Bowie or an astrologer, they'd say that this is the sign or the best sign or energy for you to date or to marry. Where he has Chiron and Mars, so he like attacks like a Scorpio or feels very attacked by Scorpios, and there are things that are involved in Scorpion energy that he's like kind of a backseat driver about. So he might even be trying to tell you about your astrology or your natal chart or something, and is like really wrong, or something about myths and fantasy. Um, that he can kind of like help and lead you to. So maybe he does astrology or something. And if I tell you, all Virgos wear green hats, and you see one with a red hat, it's like, well, now you know that I was wrong and that life is nuanced or something. So it's like sort of, can't even really find an example, but of a Chiron in Scorpio. You know, maybe he's really good at diets. Like he knows what's keto and what's Atkins, and is that vegan? He knows if it's vegan or not, but then still eats a box of like donuts or something. Mars and Scorpio, like I said, like he either feels really attacked by Scorpios, or feels attacked by Scorpios, or attacks like a Scorpio, so it's like sabotage. So if George R. R. Martin doesn't like you, most likely he won't hit you in the face. He'll like ruin your book or your movie or something, or television show. Put a Starbucks cup in it. Uh, in his eighth house of Sagittarius, where he also has Jupiter, which is a very auspicious positioning. This means he's like very lucky with like occult magic and esoterica, and maybe there were, like I said, like maybe they were doing some type of weird witchcraft stuff in his house with his mom, telling stories about Game of Thrones and dragons. And he's like very lucky for that. And he's very lucky in competitions. And I know that books win awards. I don't know if Game of Thrones, Fire and Ice ever won any awards, but I'm sure they did on television. And that's his eighth house, so he's very lucky with like the spirit world and everything. And his ninth house, he has Capricorn. So David Bowie and other astrologers would say that like your seventh house is the best person for a partnership, whether it's like a business partnership or a romantic relationship. But other astrologers say that the ninth house is a better position for long-term relationships, long-distance relationships, things with longevity, foreign travel, which he has in Capricorn. So if he has like some college pen pal, or what do you call it, college pen pal, or long distance relationship, or online dating or something, it's best that they be a Capricorn. And he has a 10th house in Aquarius, which means that he's going to be super famous on the TV, which he is, or in the ether of vibration. His destiny, his higher iron presence is to be a Capricorn, like everybody's best friend. And I think like when you watch a TV show, especially one that's like so popular and whatever, like you start to feel like the characters are your best friend, or the writer, or you're the writer. And I think there's even like an episode of Family Guy where like Brian the dog starts to like emulate being George R. R. Martin, creating a whole world and a story, um, you know, which they were like, it wasn't very good because it's Family Guy, but I was like, now, you could talk to Chat GDP and just be like, make me a story about dragons, and make it pimp. Um, make me a book about dragons and also make it pimp. Thank you. Um, and then in his 11th house, he has Pisces, so he probably does have a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons. Um, what do they say? Like, Lord of the Rings is for people or nerds who can't admit that they're Christian or something like that. So, he probably does have a lot of the religious figures in his life, a lot of spiritual people, especially after writing a book like that, probably whether if he wants to or not, there's a bunch of like Ren Fair people just like in his life, Pisces, like jesters, jokers, and fools. I would say Aquarius and Pisces are both jesters, jokers, and fools. But not a lot of planetary action over there until we get to his 12th house, which he has Aries. If this chart is accurate, like, you might see George R. R. Martin's face on more bags and T-shirts than Bob Marley. But it's like, war, aggression, bigotry. These are all things that make him like very miserable. And I think that would make most people miserable, but maybe there's some type of like empathic connection because it's his 12th house and the 12th house rules Pisces. Maybe even like through telepathy, like, especially with the moon in the 12th house as well, like he is like empathic and feels other people's pain. Um, so like, there might be like a war going on 3 countries away that he's not aware of, but just sort of, gets under his skin. Or like watching a politician trying to like race bait people or rage bait people on the internet, like dominating both the country and the world might make him very miserable. As a Virgo, as a good person, like Virgos like to be virtuously good. When I think of Virgo, I think of like Link from the game Zelda, like the hero, like maybe even like Don Quixote, like the hero that is most definitely going to lose, but still chooses the side of good, because he's fighting windmills. But that's been George R. R. Martin. Thank you so much. If you have a friend that is a Virgo with a rising Taurus and you want to tell them that they are going to be a defunct sideshow circus freak, send them this video. Or that they're going to be a very successful author and writer, and their book is going to be on television one day, and all the clouds are going to go away. So thank you for listening, thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!